What I'm seeing is an identity crisis among women. None of them seem to know who the fuck they are.
I'm 32 years old and I still don't know who I am.
You may have noticed that there's a big problem among wives and girlfriends. They're getting into commitments with men, and then just like that, they no longer know who they are suddenly, and they need to go and find themselves, and suddenly they're having an identity crisis. They look in the mirror and they don't know who that person is anymore. And since that is the case with so many of them, it's clear commitment causes the modern woman to fall apart. They don't seem to be built for it. And, I'm not just saying this. It sounds crazy. I know. But these are their words, not mine.
I don't know if I'm going to actually post this because this is super vulnerable for me and I'm a pretty open person. But earlier this year, I told my husband I wanted a divorce. And this would probably shock a lot of my friends and my family because I hadn't told anybody. I walked myself through the logistics of where would I live, how would we split the time with the kids, who gets the dog, where all of those things, okay?
About a week ago, I made a video about declining birth rates, and I mentioned that even among the children that are being born, many are growing up in a broken home. And when you dig into it, and I say you dig into it, but it's very obvious, a vast majority of divorces are initiated by women. And we're told that's because, well, men are awful. Men are abusive. They're emotionally retarded. They're disloyal. But that narrative does not hold up. A man doesn't have to cheat. He doesn't have to be toxic or even fail in his duties for a woman to leave him. A lot of the time, it's completely out of his hands. And it comes down to her, values. And for most women, whether they realize it or not, those values are shaped by feminism. Modern women in marriage, it just doesn't work out. Modern women in marriage go together like Israelis and Palestinians.
I feel like I have been searching for something in my relationship that we don't have for the whole time we've been married, which has been 10 years. There is not a single thing about my husband in and of himself that I do not love. Let me be very clear about that. He is the most self-disciplined, loyal, hardworking, good person that you could meet on this planet. And that is probably the reason why I have not left.
So at least she's honest about it. Most women won't admit it. They'll package it a little bit differently. Not a lot differently, but just a little bit. What they won't say is, he's a great guy, but I'm done. So they'll leave out the fact that he's great, and they'll say, well, I'm unhappy. I need to go find myself. I don't feel seen. I deserve better or whatever. Or, they'll just go cheat and then pretend it was all very, very complicated. They don't really have the internal structure for family, duty, or endurance. And so, they chase feelings, and then they'll go and mistake boredom for crisis. And then, everything just kind of falls apart at their own doing. And I've had to dissect my own worldview intensely since I started this channel, and even, long before that. But if you've been watching, you probably already see where that's leading me.
Our relationship and what my expectations are for my marriage and what they always have been are not met, right? Which I don't know if anybody's are. The reason that pushed me to even bring up divorce and talk about it was the fact that I feel like I can't be myself with my husband. And it's really confusing because I'm 32 years old. I am a mom of 3. And I still don't know who I am. So for me to be like, oh, I can't be myself, or you don't love me for who I am, isn't really fair because I don't know who I am. I'm figuring that out every day.
All I'm hearing is this is her problem. So she said she feels like she can't be herself with her husband, but they've been together for 10 years. It doesn't really make any sense. And she's 32 and still doesn't know who she is. Yeah, that sounds like a you problem. So yeah, a lot of times it's completely out of a man's hands. It just comes down to the woman and her mindset. Most of these women, they don't really have a solid foundation to operate off of. I mean, other than feminism, and that is their foundation, no doubt about it. And, we constantly hear about a male loneliness epidemic, but what I'm seeing is an identity crisis among women. None of them seem to know who the fuck they are. At some point, they're going to wake up and forget their own names. It's like they've all got early onset dementia. It's really having its way with these broads. Imagine walking in to a poverty-stricken area in the Philippines. There's trash everywhere, 10 people shacked up in one small place, and going to them and trying to explain the concept of an American woman with 3 kids, great husband, living in a nice house, threatening to blow it all up because she doesn't know who she is.
I love Ryan. He is the best father, okay? I just need to learn how to explain what I need from him in our relationship, and he needs to be able to give that, and I need to be doing the same for him so that we can both, like, in 10 years from now, in the next 10 years, look back and say, like, we put in the work and we finally have the marriage and the relationship that we have always wanted, and that is what I want.
So her husband needs to give her what she wants after she explains it to him. Whatever that means. But the clip ends. She later mentions that they're going to be going to Cancun to finally do their vows since they never did them originally. And the whole reason this clip here exists is because, well, she can't write those vows and she's having a breakdown, probably because, she doesn't even like this guy anymore. But here's the thing, the video's over. We've heard enough. So I'll ask you, what is the problem here besides her? Like, you want to know what would actually save this marriage? If she matured. If overnight she went from having a childlike mind to being an adult who is not a slave to her emotions. If she walked up to her husband and she said, I've done some thinking. Turns out I finally found myself and I'm ready to be a good, dedicated, dutiful wife to you, just like you've always been a good, dedicated, dutiful husband to me. I take seriously what we committed to because I value the bond we have. And I reject the modern instinct to chase novelty over commitment. That's what she needs to do. And the marriage will be saved. But until then, this entire marriage issue, it's all her. It's all her. But of course, very few women will actually do that because it's highly unlikely they'll come across a message like mine, and it's very likely they'll come across a message like this one instead. So right here, and by the way, this woman in this video here that I reviewed actually filed a claim with YouTube to try and get my video taken down, which failed. They said, no, it's fine, we're going to leave it up. Apparently, by responding to her ridiculous opinions, I was undermining her credibility as a coach and hurting her business. That's what she said. Isn't that hilarious? So this is what happens when women finally get called out for splitting up families. Have a look right here.